will the toils of life repay. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Onward to the prize before us, soon His beauty will behold. Soon the pearly gates of heaven will fill the streets of gold. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. That should set our tune for the morning. And I will just have to mention that this is a special occasion for me. I know that my son has played for church before, but this is the first time I've ever sung with his accompaniment. So, thank you, Steve.
Is it time for me? Right? 10:30? Yes? Oh, good. And Tanya gave me permission to be without my jacket since I'm kind of hot. Okay, well, when I talk about my testimony, I don't know where to start, where to end, because if I start at the beginning, it'll take us about 5 hours or 6 hours to tell a condensed version of it. But I'm going to take you through the first 7 years of my life, and then we'll go a chunk at a time. First 7 years of my life, things seemed to be normal, sort of. When I was 6, I started on kind of getting the impression that things weren't right at home. I was in a pastor's house. My father was a pastor in the Adventist church. I remember distributing literature to invite people to his evangelistic meetings and so on. At age 6, we were supposed to go to Lebanon, my mother's home country. My father was invited to be the dean of men at Middle East College. So we sold everything. And then all of a sudden, it was canceled. I didn't know why, but something was wrong at home. The church leadership understood that there was trouble between mom and dad, and they said, we're not going to send him to Lebanon with family trouble, be with her parents, and it may be too much for him. I don't know what. Anyway, it was canceled, and we stayed in Egypt. Next thing I knew, mom attempted suicide. At age 6, my oldest brother went to my parents' bedroom and saw mom lying there in bed, hardly breathing, could not wake her up, ran. I think he must have known where my father was. I was 6, so I don't remember all the details, except that I saw him running out of the bedroom, screaming, running out of the apartment, coming back shortly with my father. And the ambulance people came and took her, pumped her stomach, and thank God she lived. Later on in my adult years, mom said, the reason I attempted suicide was that I thought if I was out of the way, your father would treat you better. Mom had suffered physical abuse for 16 years. And it ended up with a broken nose on the streets. And that's when she left. And from then on, we lived with mom. We had very little to do with my father. So now we go from that time When I was 13, I mean, a lot of stuff happened. My father kidnapped us, locked us up for a whole month. Then later he said he wanted to force mom to get back with him, but things were not good. We ran away and we traveled from Cairo back to Port Said, where the church had actually sent him to plant a church in Port Said, and things that just went really bad. So we ran away from him. We got in a taxi and went back to mom. Police got involved. He took all the furniture and locked the house up. And mom went to the police again and said, "Hey, he took all of our furniture." The police arrested him. He bribed the chief in that police station and got out of jail and continued on to Cairo. And we were just left with absolutely nothing, literally nothing, except some of our clothes that were wrapped up in one little sheet. And he threw it in the staircase of the apartment building and left, and that's all we had. So we ended up staying in the orphanage. A German lady by the name of Erna Kruger had started an orphanage in Egypt, and we spent about a year living in that orphanage, trying to find a place to live. And again, in the details of everything, miracles, miracles, miracles. Another miracle was how we made it to Lebanon. But again, I don't have the time to go through all the details there. So we left Egypt, went to Lebanon at age 13. I was 13. We lived in Lebanon for 8 years with no legal papers. We're always afraid of being arrested, especially starting with 1973, when the war kind of started a little bit and subsided, the civil war in Lebanon. There were checkpoints of every kind: Lebanese army, Lebanese Christian militia, 3-4 kinds, Muslim militia, 2-3-4 kinds, Palestinian, Syrian, and we didn't have any legal papers. And had we been stopped, we would have been arrested and shipped back to Egypt. And in Egypt, we would have faced prison time because we had escaped the army service, the military service in Egypt. So living in Lebanon was tough, but it was much better than living in Egypt, because we had grandma had died before we made it to Lebanon. And that was actually one of the catalysts that forced my father to allow us to go to Lebanon, pressure from his friends. So living in Lebanon was still very hard financially, but grandpa and my uncles and aunt helped us a lot, and we worked a lot. I mean, whatever it is, we did it. We dug graves by hand to earn a little bit of money. We worked night security at the college gate and walking around campus with a big clock, and we turned the key to prove what time we're at this place, that place. We worked maintenance. We did a lot of stuff to survive. Then my father had immigrated to the US because his brother had immigrated in 1952, went to Walla Walla College to study, and he married an American lady, so he became a citizen. And so my other uncle and my father came to the States, and then when my father became a citizen, he filed for our papers to come to the US. And I think last time I told you a little bit of how that worked. But we came to the US, and again, I think I told you the story about Mr. Scott. And if you forgot it, when you look at the previous book that was written, Mom wrote about Mr. Scott and the miracle of that encounter. Please read it. Okay, and I think it's on our website now, right, Grant? The whole book is on our website. So read the story about Nasima Burgess. Yes, it still gives me goosebumps when I think of it. So we're at PUC. I have no money to pay for college. My father had promised to help with the tuition. He did not. And so I'm out of money. Mom joined us in January of 1977. We had come in September of 76. Mom joined us in January of 77. And I had to leave the college. I had to quit my studies. We rented a little apartment on Sky Oaks Drive in Angwin, owned by John George, a tiny little place. And I worked, and Mom worked. We had to buy a car. We bought a car and bought it from my roommate, Serin, who comes and visits here, and a yellow VW Bug. And I would take her. We'd go clean houses in St. Helena and Angwin, and that's how we survived. And then, again, going quickly here through because I don't have time. I was finishing I lost some credits transferring from Middle East College to PUC. So I was finishing my BA, and my principal from Lebanon called and said, "Hey, we would like to sponsor you to get your master's, and then you come back and teach for us. And then when I retire, you be the principal of the school." So I said, "Okay, sure, let's do that." So I went to Dr. Richard Rockwell, and said, "Hey, wanna finish my master's here." I was a math major. And so we worked out the schedule where I finished my master's and BA all at the same year, 1979. And so I never heard back from Lebanon. I finished, and fortunately, divinely, God worked it out that I taught a class at PUC, and they paid for my tuition that year. So I just paid $35 every quarter for the Student Association dues, they called it. So I finished my master's, and during that year, they called me from Middle East College and said, "We'd like you to come and teach at the college." So I finished, knowing that I was going to go back that was my whole desire, to go back to Lebanon to serve my people. I never wanted to go back to Egypt. I hated Egypt because that's where family troubles were, and that's where we really suffered. I didn't want to go back to Egypt. So I had a burden to go back to Lebanon. So in 1978, Tanya and I got married because I said, you need to get used to this weird guy before we go to a weird culture, and you have to get used to both of us. So we got married as I was finishing my master's, and she was finishing her degree. And in 1979, we went to Lebanon. And in Lebanon, we worked for 4 years. The war got really bad. And something else also with the retirement system of our church. And I don't have time to tell you. Maybe I'll be able to tell you some of these things later. But anyway, went to Lebanon, worked there. Many miracles happened. Our two biggest miracles were our two children born in Lebanon. And we just lived and worked there. It was hard work. I was a member of 18 different committees, and taught 19 college credits, and it was tough. And I also translated for the college president as we went and visited the current country president and prime minister and previous prime ministers and previous presidents and future presidents to build up some public relations for the school. So I was every free minute I was in town, taking the president around and translating for him, and then teaching my classes. And I'm going to quit here because I went over with my lesson, but I'm not going to go over for the pastor here. I took some of my time. Not really. Thank you, Donna, for just singing one song. That was very considerate of you. Okay, and Steve, is it? Thank you, Steve. Come back and play again, okay? Yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay, so anyway, God leads God leads in many ways. Look for the ways God has led in your life. They don't have to be tough like my life. They don't have to be, thank God I never drank alcohol, I never smoked, I never did drugs. So it's good to say these things, you know? It's really good to say these things. If you've experienced or experimented with that stuff and God saved you from it, wonderful. Talk about it. But if you've never done it, praise God for it, right? Yes? Yeah, praise God for it. I went through tough times from the outside, and the inside still struggles, but thank God I never struggled with substances, which was really wonderful. And I thank God for that. So anyway, God bless you. If I have time later on, I'll continue with my story and maybe give you a few more details. Otherwise, just know that God is leading your life, and whatever you're experiencing, God is watching you, not to zap you, but to rescue you from yourself and from others. Okay? Praise God. Enjoy your Sabbath.